All right, look, I have to address this because of all the unhinged shit that Candace Owens has said over the last 2 months. This might honestly be the most insane thing that has ever come out of her mouth. So according to her, Harry Myers, a 35-year military whistleblower who's apparently been on the run for his life from the military-industrial complex since 1990, accidentally walked straight into what he believes was the final planning meeting for the Charlie Kirk assassination. He said that there was a room full of lieutenant colonels. Funny thing is, she says you don't see that outside the Pentagon. Yeah, you do. Anyway, so at this meeting, apparently he was able to just sit in on it while they were discussing it. He also says that Charlie Kirk's head of security was there and that somebody with the same last name as somebody who works at Turning Point was there. But here's the reality of what you'd have to believe for any of that to make sense. What you'd have to believe is that a whistleblower from 1990, who has apparently been on the run from the military for the last 35 years because he's in fear for his life, just found himself at one of the most high-profile Black Ops assassination planning meetings ever.
Tonight, you're about to hear a claim that could alter the entire understanding of the Charlie Kirk assassination. A claim so bold, so startling, that even investigators who rarely react to outside noise paused when they heard it. Because according to a source highlighted by Candace Owens, someone who calls himself Harry, a man who describes himself as a former government-linked operative, he says he walked into a high-level military meeting in Arizona just 2 days before Charlie was murdered and recognized Brian Harpole sitting among the officials, calmly listening as if he belonged there. If that is true, then everything we thought we knew about this case is incomplete. If it's false, then we must ask why this statement appeared now and who benefits from raising it. Before we go deeper, take a moment to subscribe to Undercover Truth, turn on notifications, and interact with this investigation by liking the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement pushes these stories to more people searching for clarity. Now, let's continue. Harry's claim doesn't come from a random voice seeking attention. He speaks with the tone of someone who has lived around power, someone who has spent years in environments where decisions are made far away from public view. He doesn't offer proof, no documents, no records, no testimonials, but he offers something investigators pay close attention to, a memory delivered with conviction, detail, and emotion. He describes the room, the lighting, the number of people seated, the atmosphere of authority, and above all, he describes the shock he felt when he recognized Harpole. People fabricating stories often struggle with emotional consistency. They may exaggerate or shift details over time, but Harry's account, at least so far, has remained steady. He insists he knew Harpole's face, he insists he saw him in that room, and he insists the encounter bothered him enough that he mentioned it privately even before the killing happened. But this is where the public begins to feel uneasy. If he truly saw Harpole, how did Harpole gain access to a meeting of that level? There are rules in place for a reason. There are layers of clearance. There are protocols meant to protect national interests and secure discussions. Yet we know that human systems fail. People get waved through. Logbooks go unchecked. A simple oversight can slip past even the strictest security. And when someone appears ordinary enough or connected enough, they can blend into a room they were never meant to enter. Harry doesn't claim Harpole spoke. He doesn't claim Harpole participated. He simply says he was there, quiet, present, attentive. That single detail opens a flood of new questions, because if Harpole had any connection to military personnel, government contractors, or outside agencies, then investigators may have underestimated the complexity of his background. And if he had no such connection, then someone had to let him in intentionally. Either scenario is serious. This is where the investigation branches into uncomfortable territory. We know officials in Arizona held classified meetings that weekend. Multiple agencies confirmed their presence. These meetings dealt with regional security assessments, routine updates, and coordination with federal partners. But none of the public-facing records mention Harpole. No guest lists, no visitor logs released, not one recognition from an official source. And yet, Harry claims he saw him. People often ask why investigators look at statements like this so carefully. It's because sometimes the most unexpected claims contain something important, not always the whole truth, but a piece of something overlooked. One investigator familiar with the case admitted off-record that what makes Harry's claim disturbing is the timing. The meeting he describes took place 48 hours before the killing. That's close enough that it forces a reevaluation of motives, connections, and preparation. It raises the question, was Charlie Kirk's death influenced by discussions happening behind closed doors, or was it the result of individual action unrelated to that space? Right now, there is no confirmed link, but the speculation exists because the public wants answers that the official narrative hasn't provided. And that brings us to Candace Owens. Her decision to highlight Harry's video amplified something that could have remained buried in a small online corner. Some believe she did this to push for transparency. Others think she wanted to challenge the official story. And a few say she simply recognized that the claim raised questions worth examining. Regardless of why she shared it, the claim gained traction. It entered the public conversation. It forced reporters, analysts, and ordinary viewers to rethink the timeline. The more attention this story gets, the more pressure falls on the institutions involved. And pressure, especially in a case already filled with tension, can reveal cracks that weren't visible before. Now, picture the scene the way Harry described it, a long conference room with outdated lights, officers and officials seated along the table, restless, flipping through documents, identifying areas of concern. The hum of power in a room like that feels heavy, but also routine to people accustomed to it. And at one end, or maybe the side, Harry says he saw Harpole, sitting, quietly, observing. He doesn't claim Harpole stood out. He claims the recognition came from his own memory, not because Harpole drew attention. But memory can be powerful. People don't forget faces associated with tension, especially when those faces appear somewhere they shouldn't be. Still, memory can be flawed. That's why investigators must hold both possibilities at once, that Harry saw someone who looked like Harpole, or that he actually saw Harpole and nobody documented it. This uncertainty pulls the case into deeper emotional territory. If Harpole truly was there, and if nobody reported it, then the killing may have been preceded by missed signals. Society often reflects on tragedies and asks the same painful question. Could this have been prevented? Did someone see something unusual and ignore it? Did someone mention a concern that went unaddressed? These thoughts weigh heavily because they highlight how fragile safety can be. Investigators exploring Harry's claim have hit roadblocks. Officials decline to speak. Facilities refuse to release visitor data. Security staff say they're not authorized to comment. And while some of this is standard protocol, the timing feels tense. People familiar with high-level security understand how access typically works. Entrances are monitored, ID is required, sign-ins are recorded, cameras capture movement. But there are exceptions, situations where someone is escorted, where someone is vouched for, where someone enters without the same documentation as ordinary attendees. It happens more often than the public realizes, and it usually leaves no paper trail. That's why investigators cannot dismiss Harry completely. His claim fits into a space where both truth and error can coexist. It is plausible enough to investigate, yet unconfirmed enough to question. Meanwhile, the emotional impact of Charlie Kirk's death continues to shape the conversation. People are still grieving, still seeking justice, still trying to understand what led to such a devastating outcome. When new claims surface, especially ones connecting suspects to high-level environments, the public naturally wants clarity. But clarity is often the last thing to come in cases wrapped in silence. There's also the matter of timing. Why did Harry come forward when he did? Why did he wait? Why speak only after the story reached national attention? Some say fear held him back. Some say doubt. Some say he didn't realize the significance until it was too late. He insists he recognized Harpole only after seeing Harpole's name publicly connected to the case. This is common in investigations. People remember things only when a detail triggers the memory, but it also opens the door to error. Yet the emotional weight in his voice can't be ignored. It sounds like someone wrestling with whether they should have spoken sooner. That sense of guilt is something many people feel when reflecting on tragedies. They think back to moments they ignored, details they brushed aside, warnings they didn't take seriously. This is why the public feels uneasy, not because Harry's claim is proven, but because it taps into a fear we all share, the fear that devastating events can grow out of small moments we fail to notice. As the investigation continues, more questions keep emerging. Why won't officials confirm who attended that meeting? Why haven't surveillance logs been made public? Why do key individuals maintain distance from this claim rather than addressing it directly? And why is there so little clarity about Harpole's activities in the days leading up to the killing? These questions matter because they shape the direction of the investigation moving forward. And right now, the direction is expanding. This case is no longer about one event. It is becoming a network of overlapping timelines, conflicting accounts, silent officials, and emotional testimonies. This story isn't closing. It's widening. And the more we learn, the more we realize how much remains hidden. Stay engaged with this investigation. Comment your thoughts, share your perspective, like the video to push this discussion into the public space. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications, because what comes next may challenge everything we thought we understood about this case. And this investigation is far from over.